The leader of His Majesty's opposition, Sir Keir Starmer, has had quite a busy week. First, it was The Hague, in which he revealed some puzzling plans to solve the migrant crisis by letting in more migrants. Then he was busy on a romantic visit to Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, and yesterday he was with Citizen Macron in the former British territory, now known as France. We lost it in the 100 Years' War. We'll discuss that on another occasion. But it turned out that Sir Tony Blair brokered the meeting that coincided with the revelation of plans drafted by the French and the Germans that would see the United Kingdom become an associate member of the European Union. The European Court of Justice would then come in and tell us what to do. I hate to tell you, I told you so, but it was only on Monday when I suggested Sir Keir could take Britain into a Norway-style position in the EU. So now, it's time for a game of Spot the Sir or Know Your Knights. One wants to take us back into the European Union. The other wants to take us back into the European Union. One wants open borders. The other wants open borders. One wants to destroy our constitution beyond recognition. In fact, he did destroy our constitution beyond recognition. But the other wants to destroy our constitution even more. So who is whom? Well, perhaps the Transcaucasia expert, who happens to be a former Labour MP, but isn't sadly a knight, Sir Stephen Pound, as he ought to be, may have some answers. Stephen, so has Keir Starmer morphed in to Tony Blair?
No. Look, let's get a thing absolutely straight. You know, I don't want to shoot your fox, to use a Somerset expression, but the reality is that this is two the foreign ministers of Germany and France, it's Lawrence Boone and Anna Lerman, came up with this rather bizarre idea of a four-tier Europe. Now, what they're saying, the one sensible thing amongst this is that we're talking about European expansion quite clearly, obviously Ukraine possibly coming in, Kosovo, you know, maybe some of the Balkan countries. And they said European expansion has to equal European reform. Now, one of the things they've got in this is a thing called associate membership, which is, you know, you may, in fact, you wouldn't be an associate member of many clubs, you would be a founder member of many clubs, I have no doubt. But, you know, associate membership is a rather stupid idea. But on the other hand, what they're proposing, and this has been completely poo-pooed by the Labour Party, by the way, so we're not remotely interested, but it would give us frictionless access to a market of 500 million people. And I think a lot of people in this country would rather like that.
So the Labour Party is not in the least bit interested in something that you think is absolutely wonderful?
No,
that's quite an interesting way of putting it.
Yes.
I mean, you're making my case for me.
I'm not bound by the whip anymore.
But...
No, look, as far as I'm concerned, I think the original, I mean, I was around at the time when I was, in fact, with the original vote on the European Union, I was seduced by Margaret Thatcher, you know, who was absolutely convinced that we should go into Europe for economic grounds, the old European, the EEA, European Economic Area. And I still think an economic union is a marvellously sensible thing. But it's the rest that worries me.
Isn't the history of our membership of the European Union and our involvement with
mission creep
that people say, this will never happen, this will never happen, and then it does.
Yeah.
And so you get a paper that's deniable, it's by a couple of foreign ministers, only of the most important member states of the European Union. We can deny it safely. But nonetheless, it's exactly what Starmer was talking about a renegotiation, about taking some refugees from Europe, a closer association. Oh, then lo and behold, there's a paper that offers a route that may suit exactly what he wants.
I think even the most fevered conspiracy theorists couldn't actually think that there was a read across from there. There's no causal linkage between those statements. And I think a closer relationship with the rest of the European continent, it makes good sense. But let's get one thing absolutely clear. We in this country, the Labour Party, I think the nation, you, all of us, are not remotely interested in a third or fourth tier membership of any European Union. End of.
You're sure about that?
100%. Would you be in favour of it?
Well, of course I'd be opposed to it. I'm quite happy with us being outside the European Union.
Don't you think the grain of the nation would be against that?
I think it would be very difficult to get through, but there are a lot of people in powerful positions who deeply resent the fact that we left the European Union, would like to copy the European Union in certain ways, have closer alignment with the European Union. It's part of Labour Party's policy on food exports.
Well, food standards, food safety standards, please.
Well, but then you get to alignment. Once you get to alignment, you get to dynamic alignment. Once you've got dynamic alignment, you've got the European Court. There's quite a senior elite political level to make us closer to Europe.
So, Jake, I think, not for the first time, you do actually make a very important point in amongst it. The original iron and steel, do you remember the original Jean Monnet European Union, was purely an economic linkage idea. And it made sense. Post-war reconstruction, it made a lot of sense. And there has been this sort of mission creep since then. But I think in 2016, in June 2016, we voted to leave the European Union. I was a Remainer, but I'm a Democrat. Yeah. And I think most people in this country would not be remotely interested in having another vote on the European Union.
I mean, I'm finding myself in dangerous agreement with you, because had the European Union remained strictly an economic activity,
ideal,
there would have been very little harm to it. Yeah. But I certainly wouldn't want to join an economic activity with Europe again, because we saw what happened last time, and it would be the door into a closer Europe.
Which is what Churchill wanted, after all.
Well, Churchill at one point threatened to unite
the United States,
the UK and France.
Yeah.
Without mentioning it to Australia.
So did the Black Prince, I believe.
Well, he got quite close to it, actually.
We're talking about Agincourt.
well, that's Cressy. 1346. 1415 is Agincourt.
Yeah.
And indeed, Henry VI was crowned in Paris as King of France, but they invented the Salic law to say that we couldn't have the King of France. And the very last...
I hope you're all listening, by the way.
They are. The very last battle...
When was Poitiers?
Poitiers is just after Cressy, isn't it? It's a couple of years after Cressy?
I should have known better.
Something like that. Anyway...
let's agree on one thing. We oppose mission creep. We oppose the idea of a constant extension of European rights, particularly into the field of jurisprudence, but we support the idea of an economic linkage.
We like being friendly with our neighbours, but we don't want to put the fleur-de-lis back on the royal standard.
It's on it already, isn't it?
No, it's not. No, it went off with George III when he disclaimed the right to the Kingdom of